Welcome to RAGT23. We are here with the one and only, you know you're the one and only, truly amazing Christine Feehan. I am so tickled that you're here, especially since you'd had a few health issues and then you're here now, brought books and looking good. Amazing. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great and I'm so happy I'm here. This is my favorite, you know that.
Well, I appreciate that so much. That's so fun to hear. It makes this, the work that goes into this so worthwhile.
Well, I always enjoy coming.
Thank
Everybody's always so friendly here, and I tell everybody, all of my readers, I'm like, if you go to one conference, go to Lori's.
Yes. This is why I like to interview you. You and your son both, you're so full of compliments. It's great. It just, I sit here and I just think, oh.
Well, one of my favorite things, and I do it every single day, at least 3 times a day, I look at your feed on Facebook because you are one of the most positive people and the kindest. And I think that's what's needed in the world today.
I do too. I think we need more kindness. I see so many people focus so much on anger. And you think if they would focus that much on being happy or on trying to make someone else happy, God, how different the world would be.
I think so too.
It astounds me sometimes. A little off topic here, but there seems to be this huge feud about the princesses right now. And one side loves one princess and one side loves the other princess, but this side loves this princess by making fun of that princess, and this side loves this princess by making fun of that princess. And can't you just say this one's beautiful and that one's beautiful? Because they're both beautiful.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's so much energy spent on it.
Yeah.
And you probably see this too. It's a perspective thing. And it's very easy to get drawn in with the negativity. It's a lure somehow for some reason.
Yeah,
One person's mad and then everybody gets excited, wants to be mad with them.
Yeah, I don't understand that. But you know, I came from a very large family. I don't know if you're aware of that. I have 10 sisters and 3 brothers.
That's a big family.
It's a big family, and then they have a lot of children. So there's a lot of cousins, and there's a lot of different political beliefs and a lot of, different religions. We get along.
They're still family and you still love them, whether you agree with every little thing they do or not.
Yes, and when after my parents passed, which was, we're very close, we still do sibling events. And one of the things that we do, because we want to catch up, they live in different states, we made a pact that if somebody said something that was in any way offensive or distressed you, you simply gave a code. Our code is Golden Poppy.
Yeah.
And we just stop instantly. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to say why it's offensive to you, but we change the subject.
Yeah.
And we don't fight. We do not have fights because we're there to find out what's happening in your family and to learn what's going on. We love each other, and we want that to stay with the cousins and with the family. And that's the whole point of family.
It is. Because your family is going to be varied. I have 3 sons. You would not meet 3 more different people. In some ways, they're very much alike, and in some ways, people would never guess they were brothers.
Right.
Except that their mama loves them all. You know, that's how you can tell. Your mama loves them all. But yeah, it's so different. And raise them all what you think is the same, but they're each individual, so they turn out individually, and then they have their own individual experiences.
Right.
Which means they like different things, and they react differently to things. And that's how the entire world is.
Yes.
You know, I don't know anybody else's background, so I don't know what's important to them or why it's important to them.
But the world should be different. I mean, if we were all the same, it would be very boring.
And I think you can look at people who you disagree with. If you think it's a terrible thing that you disagree, look at them with compassion for how they feel that way and hope that they get enlightened in another way. If they agree with you, be glad that they do, and just go about your business.
Right.
I think social media has been a curse to this. I love it for getting to react with readers and visit with people, but it also gives everybody a very loud microphone when they want to be negative or when they want to be hateful or when they want to correct someone or share their own opinion. And people often ask me my opinion. I'm like, my opinion is everybody should be nice. Other than that, nobody cares what my opinion is. I'm just one little peon in the world,
And you don't really know what's happened in somebody's life. You have no way of knowing what their background is.
That's what, or why they've made the choices they've made. So that's why we get along so well, because we agree on that. And you've raised such a wonderful family. Your kids are just so amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Read it well. I'm sure they're all great. They have nothing but wonderful things to say about you. That's always a good thing too. Like sometimes you'll meet people and they'll say terrible things about their family. My family's different. If I say something, it's in a joking way. Like I'll joke about my sister. Everyone knows my sister here. She's a hoot. She's my sister, and I love her dearly. And she's here and supportive of the event. And so you'll see her doing this, looking at everybody, and we think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So people are, and I'm sure she makes fun of me sometimes. But it's all with love.
Yeah.
So I know readers have some questions other than us sitting here talking about.
And I hope I can answer them.
And if you can't, it's not a big problem. I mean, we'll because I never know what I did or why I did it in a book. Sometimes she's like,
well, I hope I can remember the characters. You know how many books I've written.
Yeah, how many have you written now? How many is it? Do you know?
It's at least 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets, people ask you about books from way back in the beginning. And it's like,
and what's worse is they'll ask me about secondary characters. And I'm like,
yeah.
What's that person's name?
And what book were they in? And what were they doing? I know it gets really hard.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to your work that even the secondary characters are alive to them.
Yeah.
And important.
Yeah.
So someone said, "How did you come up with the series Torpedo Inc.? It's so different for you," they said.
It is. Well, when I was younger and could take in children, I took in a lot of very abused children, and I recognized, because I worked with a lot of professionals, of course, that there was a huge difference in the way little girls were treated who had been sexually abused and boys. The girls were given counseling, and their families, if we could find them, were very loving towards them and treated them very well. The boys were often not treated that way. The fathers often didn't accept them back, didn't want them back, and they weren't given counseling. Often they didn't want the boys talking about it, and it was pretty horrific a lot of times, and there were a lot of suicides.
Terrible.
For boys, yes, it was really awful. And when I got too old to take in kids and help out, I started writing mostly about women's issues, as you can see throughout all of my books. But I promised myself that at some point I would do a series for boys. And I came upon a lot of information about children taken in the Soviet Union from their parents during a certain period of time, and their parents were murdered, and then they were used as assets, both boys and girls. And I decided to, that's where Torpedo Inc. was born, and I wanted a motorcycle club because they're perceived as, really dangerous guys and really, whatever. And I thought, this is where I can do this. And I tried really hard to show that these are edgy books and not everybody should read them. And then I got a hold of case files, real ones, and contacted professionals. I didn't realize at first what I was getting into.
It had just ripped your heart out.
It was very hard to read them, but I knew that part of it. But what I didn't realize is that a lot of it was going to have to do with sex and how they would be coping with what happened to them, and the fact that it was so far-reaching into their futures. And when I would talk to counselors, it was so heartbreaking that what would happen from this standpoint to what they would be as adults. And then how do I make them have a happy ending? It was really hard. And sometimes when I write them, I get so emotional I have to stop, and I always tell myself I'm gonna stop. I can't write any more of these. And then I get letters, and the letters just break my heart. And I think, okay, you got to write another one.
They break your heart, but then inspire you because it's touching somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody's it's resonating.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes when we can't, like you said, you can't bring in any more kids. You can't do that, but you can save someone through a book.
Yeah.
And a story.
That's the thing, is when somebody says, I was going to kill myself, and then I read your book, you think, all right, there was a reason.
Becomes a responsibility almost, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And so then you think, okay, I can write another one. It's hard, but you do it.
It's hard, but it's worthwhile. You taking in children, that had to have been devastatingly hard also.
Yeah.
So you've just been a wonderful person throughout.
I don't know, wonderful, but
yes,
my children were wonderful because they always shared, always shared. They always...
Well, that's how you taught them all that empathy and understanding and being open, you know.
They never once protested, and we had kids that come in the middle of the night, and, you know, it wasn't like we had any money. I mean, we lived out in the country, and those kids were amazing, you know.
So was this before you started writing, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I didn't start, I mean, I wrote books, of course, but I didn't publish for years. I was a martial arts instructor, and those poor children were dragged to every class.
But that's such a great control thing for emotions. You know, wrestling, martial arts, it really teaches kids self-control and
discipline,
and to understand themselves and to be able to cope, I think.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Gives them a lot of self-confidence that they might have been missing. So that was an excellent move.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed with all of them is they're very calm people. They can handle a lot of, you know, drama going on around them. And Brian in particular is very calm in some of the worst situations. All of them are very much that way.
I guess because they've seen stuff, so they're, you know, it helps them to, Brian and I were talking about being grateful, excuse me, for your things in your everyday life. I'm sure he gets it from you, but that's part of probably what makes him calm, because I always said, you know, my kids are running around the house and making noise and spilling things and knocking things over, but they could do that, you know, so, and not that I just let them run wild, I would try to corral them, but you have to, when you look at that, you have to say, well, look, they can do this. So,
and you think to yourself, like my kids would break something in the house and they'd start to cry, and my go-to thing was, that's not worth one tear on your face. Not to say that they weren't disciplined. I was often by myself with the kids, and I had a lot of kids there. So I didn't ever yell at the kids, and I didn't spank the kids, but I would be drop down and give me 25. And I had these big cargo nets, and they would have to run, and they would have to climb the cargo net and go over. Like, I'd probably be in a lot of trouble these days.
That's great discipline, I'm thinking. I just screamed like a banshee. You know?
They would know. It was always that. And the boys, as they got older, the girls would have to be on top of them. They'd have to do their push-ups. The girls could do push-ups too. And I had these things up on the beams, and the boys would hold the girls up, and the girls would do their pull-ups with their fingertips. My kids were very strong, and they
I love this. This is great parenting.
I will tell you, when they got to be teenagers, the boys, and you know how they can get a little testy with you. If they got, you know, kind of naughty with me in a grocery, I don't care where I was, I'd be like, drop down and give me 25 right now. And they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one time, my son, Brian, and his best friend, we drove up I did with his mother, and they were in a fist fight. I got out of that car, and
I
think the other mother thought I was going to yell at them for getting in a fist fight. I was appalled at the way they were holding their fist. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
That's not how you fight.
Oh my gosh, their hands weren't up correctly. I gave them the worst lecture, and I made them give me, you know, it was bad.
It's hilarious.
And she's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? They got in trouble for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, but I love that. That's fun. My kids said that they always knew they weren't allowed to embarrass me. Because like I would always point out if we were out somewhere and some kid was misbehaving, I would say, you better never do what that kid's doing over there. So Jay-Z, the one that's living in South Korea right now, he said I would always go, don't embarrass me when he would start something. He said Mom would get this demonic voice that was really low. He said that only a son could hear. And he said, yeah, you didn't want to. But you know how kids are. Like they would start doing things they shouldn't be doing.
Right.
I've never been big on unruly kids tearing places down, you know.
Yeah.
This is one you won't be able to answer, I'm sure, because I know I wouldn't. But who is your favorite character?
Usually the one I'm writing about. I think you have to be really passionate about who you're writing about, or your readers aren't going to be passionate about that person. And I have to fall in love with them, not just the guy, but the girl. I have to be very passionate about them. And when I'm writing, I step back as the writer, and I let those characters I let it unfold, and they tell me the story. Like they're going through the whole journey, and I'm enjoying that journey just like a reader would.
Just trying to get it on paper for what you're seeing.
Yeah, I love that. That's why I love writing, because I love reading. I love reading books. I love
do too.
reading your books. And
I love reading yours. Do you love it when you find an author you hadn't read before and it's like, oh my God, this is so good?
Yes.
And I did that with Abbey Road's newest one, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next ones.
And you want them to have a whole body of work so you can just sit and read and read and read, you know.
Yeah. I had never read her before, and I read her. It's actually, some of the work reminded me of your work. It's got some paranormal in it, not an overload of it, but I read the first one, and I'm like, I read it sort of just because she was talking about it. I thought, well, I'll read it, and if I like it, then I'll talk about her. Because I love to talk about other authors. Absolutely loved that book. And then I got the second one. I'm like, there's a third, right? And she goes, yeah, but it's not out yet. I'm like,
I know.
I need it now. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Especially like if I've read a softer book, then I want that edgier one right now.
Yeah.
So when you do your reading, do you like the softer work? Because Brian writes sort of a softer book, or do you like the edgier, or do you go back and forth?
I go back and forth. Sometimes, especially after I've written at Torpedo Ink, then I go after the comedies.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Cleanse the palate, That's
Yeah.
fun. So who's someone you've read recently that you really like, or do you mind saying?
Names escape me so much.
Oh, I know, me too.
I just
Sometimes I can see covers more than I can remember names.
If I had my Kindle here, I could just
So do you
whip 'em
mostly
out.
digital read, or?
I do, because I read at night and in the dark, and the Kindle lights up, and I have some that I always buy Jane's book in mass market, hardcover, whatever, and Kindle too.
Yeah. I just got a Kindle, and I'm kind of getting used to it, mostly because I was asked to read a few ARCs, and they didn't have print. They had them in digital, which meant I was either going to be reading on my little phone or sitting on my computer, and I didn't want to do that. So I got a Kindle, and I'm getting used to it, but I'm still old school. I still like my print books.
I do in the ones I collect, but I had some problems with my eyes for a while, and I actually use an Apple, and I can make the print really big. So I got used to reading that way.
Yeah.
And I read it, like I say, at night. That's the only time I have.
I know, because you're always writing. Do you start at a certain time, or do you get up?
Oh, yeah, I'm very, very disciplined.
Very regimented?
Yes, I'm very disciplined.
I guess you'd have to be with that many books, because you do so many books a year. I'm always in awe.
I'm cutting down.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm cutting back because I need a little bit of time. I have grandchildren, and they are doing all these activities, and Denise does a lot of them.
Yeah.
She's into circus, and one of my granddaughters is into circus. And
Oh, fun.
so they want me to, go
Do the
see what
grandma
they're-
thing and show up and see them, yeah. Yeah, I love my time with my grandkids.
I do too.
We have trails put in now, and I love to. The first few times we went out, we found bones, which sounds horrific, but they weren't human. They were something animal that was killed, and they were completely dried and bleached out. And the grandkids were so excited about it that now every time I go out, I go into the woods and I try to find another bone that I can move to the trail for them to find. So they'll be walking, like, oh, there's a bone. It's like little boys, you know.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Well, the little girls like them too. My friend has 3 little girls that I love to visit with, and I'm sure if my granddaughter wasn't still in South Korea, she would love them also. All right, so she says, I so love a Leopard series book that includes something about all the babies that are and or were on the way. Is that something we could ever look forward to? That would be a big one.
Oh my gosh, you do not know how many
times you get asked that?
Yes, people are obsessed
Yeah.
with babies.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many letters I get about babies. And I'm like, I just don't even know why, but they love.
Because you're such an amazing writer.
They
I don't think
love
it's all
babies.
babies. I think it's what you're writing.
Well, a lot of it I think is families too. They love the whole thing about families. But you know, when you're writing, I concentrate on the couple that I'm writing about, and I don't add in, I refuse to add in just information
That isn't necessary.
that has nothing to do with the book I'm writing. I'm not going to be that writer that does that. So unless it's pertinent to what I'm writing about, it's not going to be in there.
Good for you.
I just can't do that.
Well, plus because you would have to do I don't know about you, I would have to do so much research to remember the minutia on each of these to get it to fit. You know?
Well, in all honesty, I have somebody that I just recently hired that I said, I want you to go through. She's doing the Leopard books right now because I'm writing
Get all the
one
details together for you.
that I'm asking her. I have notes, but they're not really comprehensive of places and what everything looks like, and I want those notes for myself.
Yeah.
I plan on doing this really special 3-book thing. I don't, who knows whether your publishing house is going to go for something or not, but I want to do it. So if they aren't, then I'm going to do it with somebody else or self-publish.
Everybody I've talked to, the industry has changed so much.
It
And I think
has.
we're all looking at different ways of doing things now because of that. So.
Yeah, it is. And it is difficult to kind of maneuver through what's going on.
It is, and I don't like it.
No.
I like the old days.
I do too.
But it's a different world. And we just got to keep up and do the best we can, I guess. And I think I'm too old to teach new tricks, but I'll do what I can do. Okay, so I think we have to wrap it up here. I'll ask one more question. Any more Ghost Walker books for Team 1?
For Team 1. I plan on going back to Team 1, yes.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
What are you working on right now?
I'm working on a Leopard book.
Oh,
and
okay,
it's
good.
really cool.
Oh,
I
good.
love it, yeah.
So everybody's got that. Do you have a title yet? Do you title your books?
Yes, and it's called Leopard's Hunt.
I'm always in awe when an author can title her own books, because I suck at that. But that's awesome.
I actually suck at it too, but I happen to have that title. So.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate it. It's always a highlight when you come back to the event.
Well,
I really appreciate it. It's like having Marilyn Monroe show up.
Oh my God.
Superstar.
If only I could look like that.
We got to be happy in our own skin.
I know.
But I just meant star power. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I love coming. You know that, Lori. So.
Thank you.